So as we were talking about, Johnson has strong support for containment and the war. 1965, a poll indicates that 61% of the Americans support the war, while only 25% opposed it, leaving 50% unaccounted for. But the point is, people supported the war for the most part. By the end of 1965, U.S. has 180,000 troops. American commander in Vietnam, William Westmoreland, served in World War II and Korea, continued to request more troops. So he says we need more, it's not enough. By 1967, 500,000 U.S. troops were in Vietnam. So they continued to encourage buildup of troops, and it continued to progress from 1965 to 1967. So who were these men? About 2/3 of American troops are volunteers, so you have to understand that means of this 500,000 group here, over 300,000 are volunteers. So most of them have volunteered to be there. The other third were the results of conscription, or the draft. So the draft is passed by Congress, reinstated. It was instated during World War II and other war times. So the draft is reinstated. This is men between the ages of 18 and 25. They have to enter their name in the lottery. If your number's polled, you go to the war, which means the lower your number, they would pull out birthdays. And if my birthday, April 18th, was the first number drawn, it's very, 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 very likely I would go to the war. If your birthday was polled, say, 150th, not as likely. And then they would say, okay, if your number was polled and your birthday is between this and this, then you go to the war. I talked about the other day other options. You could protest, you could refuse, but if you do that, you might go to prison, flee to Canada, or you could, like we talked about, Malcolm X did, you could act crazy. But many men were forced to go to the war against their will. I talked about how this is a living room war, and your presentations are going to highlight this more than anything. But the violence is on TV every day. Images in the media, they cover the war unlike any other war in history. And the images that people start to see, they don't align with what their leaders, Johnson's administration, are telling them. So the American public starts to doubt whether the war is going as well as they're being told it is. And this is known as the credibility gap. So the idea is that the images in the media aren't matching what they're being told by the government, and the people start to distrust the government portrayal of the war, and they start to go against the war, especially as the youth, the new left, start to promote this. As we talked about at the beginning, by 1970, late 1960s, the public opinion of the war, and in large part to the media portrayal, it's very negative. The war, it's just lost its reputation. A lot of that has to do with the media. Number 18, we're going to skip this. You don't have to do this. As you go through the presentation, so two major themes to focus on. How did this event impact public opinion? And how did the U.S. media coverage impact U.S. public opinion? So some of this you might have to infer. Think about how the U.S. would cover something like the Kent State Massacre and how that would impact U.S. public opinion. So you're going to cover in your work, you're going to cover presentations 1 through 5. Those are posted. So in this document that I'm posting now, you can click on the links here, and this will take you to what you need to cover, the first 5 presentations. So Operation Rolling Thunder, Tet Offensive, the My Lai Massacre, Democratic National Convention, and the SDS, Students for a Democratic Society. You need to cover those 5 presentations. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.